We've been celebrating Heritage Week since last Monday under the theme, Celebrating a Heritage of Resilience and Pride. Let us continue to represent Jamaica with pride, continue to share our culture, music, food, dance, everything Jamaican to everyone you meet all over the world. Our island may be little, but we as a people are big, strong and proud. As the saying goes, we little, but we talawa. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Theodore Henry. Stay tuned.
Let's get a little breeze on this land. All right. Now let's get some bounce in the rhythm. All right. Let's get some fire on our hearts. Now that is what we call all right. Run, come, get some Jamaica.
Join us this Heroes Day, Monday, October 19 for the National Honors and Awards Ceremony 2020, the virtual presentation, beginning at 8:15 a.m. with a wreath-laying ceremony to our national heroes, live from the National Heroes Park. See our distinguished honorees in their splendor as we pay homage to them, mixed with tributes in song and dance by the National Dance Theatre Company, Cat Corps, Jermaine Edwards, and many more. That's the National Honors and Awards Ceremony, Heroes Day, Monday, October 19, beginning at 8:15 a.m.
For over 30 years, the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, known as CARDI, has been steadfast in providing sterling contribution to the growth and development of the agricultural sector of CARICOM member countries, which includes Jamaica. Find out more next.
Hello and welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm your host, Enthros Campbell. Now, today we'll be focusing on the role of the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI, and we want to talk about how it has been operating in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic. Our resource person is Acting Country Representative, Mrs. Dion Clark Harris. Mrs. Harris, welcome to the program. It's so good to have you.
Thank you for having me, Enthros. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity for sharing.
You're welcome. So CARDI has been around for like 30 years, right?
Much more than 30. In fact, this is our 45th anniversary.
All right. Tell us about the history of CARDI and so on.
Okay. Well, CARDI is an organ of CARICOM. We were formed in 1974, when the member countries, the governments of member countries signed an agreement to have a regional body with representation for research and development of agriculture in the region. So CARDI came out of that need that was seen, and currently we operate in 14 member countries.
Right.
We started off back in 1974 in 12, and we added 2 recently. The Cayman Islands and the Bahamas.
Okay.
So we therefore answer to about 6.2 million people in the region.
Yes. So now your mandate, I'm sure, is different than as when compared to now, because 45 years later.
Yes. Well, certainly CARDI has to be responsive because there is nothing more dynamic than the agricultural sector. The needs of the agricultural sector will shift and change, but really, what we were mandated to do was to create new industries within the region. We have traditional agricultural commodities that have been developed, some from the colonial times, and so we now have to develop our own industries. So we look at non-traditional commodities. That's our focus, and we have special responsibility for a few of them. So lots of our work would be centered around those. Mm-hmm. So for instance, roots and tuber crops, which would include the sweet potatoes, yams, cassava, those crops. Mm-hmm. We have responsibility for hot pepper. Hot pepper is a crop that is of the region, and we have a niche in that, and we have been working on that commodity.
Yes.
Small ruminants in the area of livestock, we look at small ruminants. Those would be goats and sheep. And we also have recently added coconuts to that. So those and grains and legumes, right? So we operate in these 14 countries, and the centers of excellence for the various commodities would be in a different country.
Okay.
So that is how we look at the development of the commodity,
Yes.
though,
Yes.
and the whole value chain. You know, historically, we would have thought of agricultural development as production focused. We focus on all the issues along the value chain, from the planting material straight through to production, protection of the crop, harvesting, and value addition after harvesting. So that is how we have changed, and we are market led in terms of our focus.
Right. So your role in Jamaica is still focused on the Caribbean, or there is a CARDI Jamaica?
Okay, so CARDI has a Jamaica unit, and I represent the Jamaica unit at the moment. We therefore are partnering with the government of Jamaica, looking at some of the priorities of the Ministry of Agriculture in Jamaica, and we support those needs. But the regional aspect of it now still comes into play, because we would look across the region to see where there are similarities in needs, leverage so that we can benefit from each other's strengths and support each other's weaknesses.
Right.
So that's the local
Yes.
versus the regional.
Right. So how important is CARDI to Jamaica, especially at this time when we're going through this pandemic and the issue of food security is a big one?
Okay, well, if you know, we had some issues early in terms of food and worrying about food, because as soon as there's a crisis, what countries do, and I mean globally, is hold on to their food. And so as a regional organization, we have to assist our member countries to benefit from each other, so that our supply chains are more within the region than the external ones, especially the disrupted ones. So more than ever, we need to get that regional cooperation machinery so well oiled that we can respond in crises such as these that
Yes.
can really disrupt our food supply if we're not careful.
So how did you respond to the because we were seeing some food shortages
You were
during
seeing
in
some-
March and now.
Okay.
Yes.
So within Jamaica, though, which is unique, we have a number of agencies. So RADA would have been the legs on the ground in Jamaica, assisting with the movement of food. But on the regional level, CARDI cooperated with the CARICOM Secretariat and the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations to develop what is called the CARICOM COVID-19 Agri-Food Plan, and that had various components that would cover some of the areas that we saw there would be need going forward in this kind of crisis. So, for instance, you would have a country with shortages in something, but another one with gluts in something. How can we facilitate trade in the region so that those countries benefit from each other? We also have had surplus of things like chicken, meat, and so on, storage
We, as in
across the region.
across the region, yes.
Here too, we
Yes,
had
yes,
surplus.
surplus.
We had surplus of eggs. We had surplus of chickens, and so because of the hotel sector closing,
Yes.
right. So we had that surplus. So it's how do we manage that surplus so that
Right.
we don't lose the stuff? What are the storage facilities across the region that can assist each other? You know that the OECS, the countries are closer to each other, and so that kind of cooperation is also very easy to do. So
Right.
that's part of.
Yes.
Of
You said you coordinate with FAO and another organization, so you're not dealing with us directly.
Yes, ma'am. We
Oh,
work.
okay.
Yes, in Jamaica, we work with the Ministry of Agriculture and all the
Okay,
national
okay,
institutions that have responsibility
Yes,
for
yes.
agriculture or are relevant to agriculture, because we do have some cross-sectoral linkages that we have to maintain as well, especially given that we're looking at the value chain. Because when we
Yes.
look at the value chain, you have manufacturing, processing sort of
Yes,
things
yes.
coming in, health, tourism, finance, all of those issues,
Okay.
we have to do that coordination, discussions, dialogue, facilitate, not just within Jamaica, but across the region.
Okay, cool. Okay, we're going to take a quick break now and pick up with more information about the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI. Please stay with us.
Nutritious food, succulent dishes, superior workmanship, and excellent service. Jamaica is on the go. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Let's harness the indomitable spirit of our most valued resource, our people. Let's support our local businesses. After all, buying Jamaican means building Jamaica.
Original.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're talking about agriculture today, and our guest is Mrs. Dion Clark Harris, Acting Country Representative, Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, commonly called CARDI. Now, let us talk about some of the projects specific to Jamaica.
Okay. Well, Jamaica has benefited from most of the projects that CARDI would have done. We have regional projects and we have participating countries. So currently we have a regional project in 12 countries, and Jamaica is one of them in coconuts. That's our flagship project at the moment. We also have another regional project in 6 countries, which is called the Pilot Program for Climate Resilience. So those current areas of focus are benefiting Jamaica.
Right.
We also have livestock activities which support the small ruminants industry in terms of the supply of goats and sheep. Of course, you know, Jamaica is a curry goat country, and
Yes.
so we collaborate to improve the productivity of the animals by breed improvement and so on. So just to go into
The coconut project, though, I'm interested in. Yes.
just to go into some. Now, what Jamaica must commend itself on is that it has an agency, the Coconut Industry Board, which has responsibility for coconuts. And so our industry, relative to other countries, is very robust. And the Coconut Industry Board takes care of the needs of the growers of coconuts in the region. So our support to Jamaica is to improve the capacity of the Coconut Industry Board to service their clients here. And we have intervened in areas of capacity building in terms of the nurseries. So we have enhanced their nurseries by putting shade housing facilities and improved their irrigation and their seed beds in recent times to accommodate more seed nuts, because we have to be constantly expanding the industry to supply the demand that's growing in the world for coconut products. And also we have some disease issues, and so replanting is one of the areas of focus that it would be supported by increased planting material. Under the project, we are guided by a stakeholders platform right across the industry. We have actors in processing, finance, training, all the different actors involved in coconut industry, and they have, in those discussions, identified that we needed to have had a nursery in the West. And so we constructed a nursery on the Nakalva Polytechnic College premises to do 2 things: to give increased access to the growers in the West and to, get the youth involved, because as an agricultural college, it would give them some hands-on experience with nursery management on the campus. So that's a relationship we have now, and we have a nursery, a brand new nursery down there that we have established under the project.
So you're happy with this project? Is doing well?
Well, we are now in a second phase. We actually had a phase 4 years, and having successfully completed that phase, it is supported by the European Union and the African Caribbean Pacific Secretariat in terms of funding. But this is a second tranche of funds that we're getting. And as I said, it's being done in 12 countries now. So
Yes.
it's the funding that we receive is to service the 12 countries and interactions in each of the countries. But in Jamaica, we're supporting that. We're supporting training activities. We give information on the various aspects of coconut production technology. We are also working with the growers, bolstering their cooperation to have more viable entities.
Yes.
So we have a lead farmer in 10 different locations. So we have 10 things that organizations that we call alliances for action. So you have a lead farmer dealing with a ring of farmers and those interacting with other farmers, and we bring supporting institutions to give them the necessary information to guide them in business plan development, financing, just technical knowledge and stuff like that. How to do pest management, integrated pest management is another.
I'm interested in the young people though. About how many of them are involved in this project?
Well, it's the school.
The school.
Right. So it's to interface with their curriculum. So the teachers would make it a part of their practicals and so on. And we do plan to have some sessions where we actually have training sessions with classes.
I know you talked about the Small Ruminants project, but I want to hear about technology. Any project specifically dealing with technology? Because that is one of our issues, I believe.
Technology, when you say?
As in how you're using technology. Do we have a project that is dealing with technology in agriculture?
Well, information and communication technology is a cross-cutting element in our work program. And we, in the COVID era, we have had to lean and to modernize our platforms. So Zoom meetings we have been accustomed to as an institute because we have so many countries to meet at any given time. But we also use a lot of social media to share technology and so on. In the farms, though, we look at irrigation technologies. We look at rainwater harvesting, for instance. We look at protected agriculture systems, for instance. These are some of the practices that we would have done. But technology is also the how-to-dos, the best practices, the packages of good agronomic practices for the different commodities that we work on. Best seed. So we have developed the hot pepper. We have several accessions of hot pepper that we produce, and we build them up so that they can be distributed, the seed, good quality seed.
Young people don't want to get into farming because they don't want to be doing the manual work. So hence I was talking about the technology, so they can be interested.
Well, technology that would be of interest there would be things like devices that are used for agrometeorological data that would guide some of the decisions that the farmers would need, when to water, how much to water, when to anticipate pests. So modeling and forecasting, crop modeling is one area that uses a lot of technology. We partner with the University of the West Indies to develop that project that I mentioned, the pilot program for climate resilience, PPCR for short, where we have looked at weaning and hardening facilities, tissue culture, production of plants and material, enhancing those facilities so that people who are doing, say, molecular biology and so on can work with us in that area. We look at molecular characterization of our crops. Sweet potato, we have a number of varieties. We have been looking at drought tolerance for climate resilience. So we do the molecular characterization so you can identify the genes that would convey drought tolerance to our sweet potato varieties. So those are some interesting and exciting areas that the youth can
some areas that we'd like to talk more about, but we don't have the time. So we're going to be wrapping up. How can people get in touch with you? Farmers who need help, they have to go through. How do they get in touch with you if they have issues? I know you probably do at Ministry of Agriculture, but tell us.
Well, not just Ministry of Agriculture, the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, rather, is actually the vehicle of our technology transfer operations in Jamaica too. And we liaise with them. But we have an office. We have two, in fact. We have one on the University campus, on University of West Indies campus, and one on the RADA building in Mandeville, where our livestock operations are featured. So we have phone, websites, and they can call, send an email, and we're accessible, very accessible.
We're really going to have to invite you back because we haven't covered half of what
I also don't feel like I have covered all that I would have loved to share with you.
So we would have to invite you back.
Yes.
This has been Get the Facts. Our guest was Mrs. Dion Clark Harris, Acting Country Representative of the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI. For more information on the role and function of the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, please contact them at 876-927-1231 or visit their website at www.cardi.org. Until next time, when Get the Facts bring you more useful information, I'm Rose Campbell. Take good care.
As Heritage Month continues, we remember Jamaica's national hero and first Prime Minister, Sir Alexander Bustamante.
One of the great movers and shakers of Jamaica's development. A hero in the eyes of a nation, he worked hard to improve and protect from many injustices within his time. Alexander Bustamante knew what was required to improve the plight of the common man and tried to make that happen.
What we need in this island is not more men, but more men with courage, with the spirit of fighting for justice for all, and more so for the less fortunate, independent men who will sacrifice their own interests for their unfortunate sisters and brothers.
His heroic life journey began in the small rural district of Blenheim in Hanover. Here, in this small cottage nestled in the cool hills, the son of Robert and Mary Clark was born. It was February 24, 1884. He was named William Alexander Clark. Young Alexander was among other young men who were forced to seek employment abroad when jobs in Jamaica proved scarce. He had changed his surname from Clark to Bustamante by the time he returned to Jamaica in 1933. It was after starting a money-lending business in Jamaica that he became fully aware of the harsh reality of poverty faced by most Jamaicans.
Low wages, bad working conditions. People were not regarded as people. They were just factors of production.
Bustamante chose to preoccupy himself with improving the prevailing conditions. He began with writing numerous letters to the Daily Gleaner and occasionally to British papers as a means of exposing the extremely bad social and economic conditions of the masses.
He made it known that human beings were not supposed to work under conditions where the wages were so low that they were unable to feed themselves and to feed their children.
By the time he was near his 50th year, Bustamante's advocacy had evolved, with him becoming an active mediator in workers' strikes. Something new was happening in Jamaica, in which he would play a central role. The poor and oppressed had passed the stage where they could be bullied into submission by the guns and bayonets of the then colonial forces. Bustamante's voice grew loud in support of the workers' struggles and in contempt of the governing authority. His speeches, mediating and organizing activities slowly replaced the people's disorganized resentment to the oppressive forces of the colonial government with organized resistance. The charismatic, influential speaker drew large crowds at union rallies and organized and supported numerous strikes. In May 1938, he founded the Bustamante Industrial Trade Union, BITU. He had grown into a strong political figure and began working with his cousin Norman Manley and others to form a new political movement, the People's National Party, PNP. At the same time, his clashes with the authorities continued, and on September 8, 1940, Bustamante was detained at Oak Park Camp for the alleged violation of the Defense of the Realm Act. He was released in 1942 and soon after successfully formed his own political body in the form of the Jamaica Labour Party in 1943. The next year, universal adult suffrage was instituted, allowing all Jamaicans the right to vote. In the December 1944 general election that followed, Bustamante's JLP won the majority of the 32 seats in the House of Representatives.
Because of the great work he did as a trade unionist, it was not difficult for him to get the people together to vote for him.
At his second victory at the polls in 1949, Bustamante became the unofficial government leader as Minister for Communication until the position of Chief Minister was created in 1953. In late 1953, Bustamante was honored by Britain's Queen with the title Knight Bachelor and was addressed Sir Bustamante. He was named Jamaica's first Prime Minister when the country gained independence from Britain in 1962. And later that year, married longtime associate and union colleague Gladys Longbridge. Sir William Alexander Bustamante received the Order of National Hero of Jamaica in 1969 for his immense contribution to Jamaica's politics and dedication to improving the conditions of workers. He died at the age of 93 on August 6, 1977.
How would you want to be treated if you were diagnosed with COVID-19? Not like this.
Them will talk how I'm wicked and if it dead, and they behave like I am the one that created the virus. All my friends as well that were positive, them going through even worse than what I'm going through. Persons are calling police on them as well.
Do not allow your fear of COVID-19 to rob you of your humanity. There is no need to shun or victimize persons with the disease or those on the front line.
To mistreat persons that do have it, it's not a good feeling. We don't cause this on ourselves.
We really need to cut the hate and work together as a country, as communities to overcome.
Let us be understanding with those affected and support each other. Be kind. End the stigma.
Join us this Heroes Day, Monday, October 19 for the National Honors and Awards Ceremony 2020, the virtual presentation, beginning at 8:15 a.m. with a wreath-laying ceremony to our national heroes, live from the National Heroes Park. See our distinguished honorees in their splendor as we pay homage to them, mixed with tributes in song and dance by the National Dance Theatre Company, Cat Corps, Jermaine Edwards, and many more. That's the National Honors and Awards Ceremony, Heroes Day, Monday, October 19, beginning at 8:15 a.m.
This is where the magazine ends for today, but if you would like to see more content like this, then visit our YouTube page. We also have all the latest news and updates on our social media pages and on our website, jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production crew, I am Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.